crafters! So if you've watched any of my previous videos where I filmed in my dad's workshop barn, you might have noticed it's a little cluttered. Organizing the workshop barn has been a decade-long endeavor at this point, but trust me, it is way better than it used to be. Anyways, in the effort to organize, my dad needed a way to store miscellaneous sockets that didn't have a home. He does have a tool chest, but he doesn't want the sockets to be loose in the drawer. So if you have a similar problem, I've got a solution. Today we are going to be making a DIY tool socket organizer tray out of foam. Of course, you can use this method to organize whatever you want. You don't have to use this only for tools. But this is a great way to organize sockets, and I will show you my process. Here's what you need to make your own DIY foam organizer. First, my dad picked up 2 sheets of 6mm black foam and 1 sheet of 2mm red foam from Michael's for like $1 each. And if you time the sales or use coupons, you can get these cheapest from your local craft store, but if you want to order it offline, I'll put a link in the description below. He also purchased this Loctite spray adhesive from Lowe's. This is the high performance middleweight bonding. Again, you can pick this up at your local hardware store, order through the Amazon link I've got in the description, or you can opt for a different adhesive. Tacky glue would work well for this project, and hot glue would also work as long as you don't melt the foam in the process. These are the materials that make up the organizer tray, and we will need a couple craft tools like a knife and a pencil, but I'll share more on those when we get to them in the project. Step 1. Glue black foam sheets together. Alternatively, you could just purchase thicker foam, but since we couldn't find 1/2-inch foam, we are just going to glue these 2 pieces together. Make sure your foam is clean of dust and debris, as that will weaken the bond. I'll show you how I used this specific adhesive spray, but otherwise just follow the instructions on the back of your adhesive. After shaking the can, I thoroughly sprayed 1 piece of foam and then stuck the next piece of foam to it immediately. The can suggests spraying both pieces, waiting 10 minutes for the adhesive to get tackier, and then attaching your pieces, but I only sprayed one side and then immediately attached them since the foam is a porous material. After pressing the pieces together firmly, they started kind of pulling apart from each other a little, so I set a box on the foam for about 10 minutes or so while that bond set. Step 2. Trace sockets. Once my black foam was glued together, I used a straight edge and a pencil to trace around my sockets. This is the part where you can get creative and customize your tray. I cut my foam so the sockets will lay fully down in the slot, but you could cut the slot a little shorter than your sockets, which would make them sit at a raised angle. Another option is tracing the circumference of the socket and letting them stand upright. Since these sockets will be stored in a flat drawer, I wanted them to lay fully down in the foam. Step 3. Cut spaces. Once you've marked your foam, it's time to cut through the foam. This is the tedious part, and if someone has an easier way to do this, please share your ideas in the comments below. I used an X-Acto knife to cut out my slots, and I found 2 methods that worked best for me. The first method is to press the knife all the way through the foam in several spots along the side you are cutting. This perforates the foam, if you will, and then it's easier to cut along the entire side since it's already kind of perforated. The other option is to slice shallowly along the entire side. This will create a slight groove in the foam, and then you can slice in that groove a little bit deeper, and then again a little deeper, and repeatedly slide your knife through that groove, cutting deeper each time until you've cut all the way through your foam. Now, if you have some kind of hot knife, that would make the step so much faster because it would melt easily through the foam, but if you decide to melt the foam, make sure you work in a well-ventilated area so you are not inhaling any fumes. Whether you use a knife or heat to cut out your foam, please make sure to put safety first. Once all your spaces are cut out, make sure your sockets fit well. It's a lot easier to cut the foam before we attach the red backing, so make sure things are how you want it before we move on to the next step. Once you like how things are looking, cut off any excess black foam. Step 4. Attach red foam. Cut the red foam to match the size of your overall black foam piece. Then use spray adhesive just on the back of the black foam. We don't want to spray the red piece because if you do, you will have tacky adhesive in the spaces for your sockets. Since the foam wasn't bonding right away when I attached the 2 black pieces together, I tried waiting 10 minutes like the can suggests. However, I found that the foam was too porous and it absorbed the adhesive while I was waiting. So I sprayed the back of the black foam a second time and then immediately attached it to the red foam piece. As an aside, you may notice I didn't use glove because, let's be real, they've kind of been in short supply these last few months. So if you do get the adhesive on your hands or your arms like I did, Goo Gone works super well to get it off. I use this product like all the time when I'm DIYing things and it really never lets me down, so I'll have a link for that in the description as well. Step 5. Label. Now that our foam is all together, the last thing we need to do is label each space so we know exactly what size socket goes where. I just used a basic acrylic paint from Walmart that was like 50 cents, I squeezed some out onto a plastic baggie, and I used a toothpick to write my numbering. Just dip the end of the toothpick in the paint and then write your label. I like using the toothpick because I can be more precise with it than with a paintbrush, and I can make the numbers smaller. You could also opt for a paint marker with a fine point, or really any pen that will be visible on the foam. And now that it's labeled and everything is dry, your DIY tool socket organizer tray is finished. Woohoo! Of course, this idea can be applied to organizing other items as well. You could make a DIY foam organizing tray to organize crafting tools, crochet hooks, school supplies, or really whatever else you can think of. So let me know in the comments what you are going to organize. And if you found this video helpful, I would appreciate a thumbs up on the video. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe since I post new content every week. But until next video, happy crafting!